How would your life change if you could disappear from the noise and focus entirely on growth? The whole wide world is filled with all sorts of distractions that pull your attention one way or the next. So what if you could do something to protect your focus and detach from anything that doesn't serve your goals, allowing you to disappear into your work and make meaningful progress? Because if you're anything like me and you're right done with flashy productivity tricks and you are all about creating a space for clarity and focus, then I'm sure that we'll both walk away with one or two applicable takeaways that we will be able to put into practice in order to get down to the C to it. If you don't know, my name is Chad Joshua, and I'm working my way through writing a 100-song catalog. I write songs about populism, freedom, and liberty, and this is my artist channel, which I use to promote those songs. In my free time, I like to discuss the things that factor into us making the most of our opportunity in order to be sure that we're being as effective as possible as we pursue those things that do matter to us. And what I'm wondering today is, what is it that we could accomplish if we could just detach from all of the distractions, and if we could give ourselves the space that we need in order to dig in the challenge at hand? Finding a way to be able to do that is so important because we're just inundated with the problems of constant noise. Social media, notifications, external demands, all of this fragments our attention. The innate desire to seek validation, how nosing your way towards that just completely distracts you from your progress. The more you give into that, the more it leads to shallow work and minimal progress. All of those constant interruptions diminish your creativity and derail your focus. And focus, it isn't elusive because it's difficult, but because it requires intentional protection from the noise. And all of those distractions are just like static on the radio. They dilute the signal. They make it difficult for us to hear what it is that we're trying to listen to, whether that's the music on the radio or it's your internal compass. So finding the best approach to navigating that is certainly a skill that each of us could use in our toolbox. So if you could see focus as a form of freedom as opposed to a chore, how would your mindset shift? Because focus, it isn't about restrictions, it's about liberation. It frees you from the chaos of multitasking, and it gives you control over your time and your energy. So if we can redefine it, and we can think of focus as a privilege, not as an obligation, and if we start to say, I get to focus rather than I have to focus, we can start to carve out a space for the quiet. When focus starts to feel like a freedom, it's easier to keep. And my efforts as a songwriter are no different than anybody else doing anything else. So I certainly struggle with this also. You know, there's all kinds of influencers out there online who talk about all of the various things that you can put into practice in order to work towards the things that you're trying to. If only you just subscribe to this or follow that. And in order to not miss out, in order to not feel like you're not getting left behind, there's this recurring tendency to give time over to consider whatever it is that this or that person is saying. Sometimes you even go one step too far and you lock yourself into it. You subscribe, maybe even put some money over to them. You capture some part of your attention off into the wrong direction completely. Or maybe it's not as sophisticated as that for you. Maybe it's just a basic old everyday doom scrolling trap, or your constant desire to post something online to get that immediate feedback rather than keeping your shoulder to the grind. There are just plenty of things to pull you off of your own course. In my case, on my journey to write 100 songs, I'm constantly pulled out of songwriting and recording time in order to figure out ways to promote. And now that I've spent about a year doing all sorts of things in all sorts of wrong directions, my takeaway is that I have to narrow in to the basics, put all of that sort of on an autopilot, and lean myself back into the songwriting, because that's what I most am concerned with. And I can't improve in that area. I can't improve with my mixes, and I can't improve with my production, my speed of doing those things, unless I put in the rep. That seems to go the same for the promotion. But rather allowing myself to be constantly pushing in whatever direction the wind is blowing, I need to just latch on to the basics, and so I can lean back into the hard work of leveling up in the areas that matter most to me. So what about you? You can tell me below what you're working on that you know would benefit if you could just detach from the noise and lean into it. And what do you think you could get done if you did just that? If you gave yourself permission to detach and fully invest in your work, going dark and diving into deep work matters, because it produces meaningful progress and tangible results. That space you create, it fosters your creativity, innovation, and it allows for you to build a sense of accomplishment. In order to go dark and create a space for deep work, you can start by setting boundaries, define and protect time blocks for uninterrupted focus, disconnect intentionally, silence notifications, and minimize distractions. When you do engage this way, allow yourself to prioritize meaningful tasks over busy work. Deep work transforms an ordinary effort into something more extraordinary. And all that is required of you is commit to see to it. Think of your time as a sculpture. In order to make the most beautiful use of your time, you have to carve out the rest of the unnecessary material. Give yourself the space to stop chasing likes and comments and anything else that takes energy away from meaningful work. Anchor your actions in your value, not external metrics. Measure your success by progress, not applause. And don't be afraid to celebrate your quiet wins that align with your purpose. This is all about working towards your own fulfillment, not for recognition from others. And I get it, sometimes recognition from others results in the capacity for earning, but what we're specifically talking about today is moving yourself outside of those sort of trappings in order to level up what you're doing. Because what is it that happens when you prioritize quiet progress over public approval? Whenever you intentionally start to step back and away from it. When you garden, you protect the time that you do have to allot to your creative pursuit, and you're able to commit to progress for its own sake. So decide one area in your life that you can protect your focus starting today, and what's one change that you can make right now to reclaim your attention and energy. There's always so much in front of us to do, so go and get to it and keep your head up. I'm going to keep mine up. And if you haven't had a chance to hear my new song, you can listen to it here. We'll talk again soon.